Welcome back, fellow Maplers. Get it? Yeah. Anyway, before I get started, I went to a wedding this past weekend and caught the flu. It has absolutely floored me these past couple days, and I'm still caught up with a mild fever, so I've been taking it easy. With that in mind, today's video will follow an achievement earned by completing a bit of a shorter series of quests taking place in Aqua Road. But hey, all's good though, because at the very least I shredded the dance floor while I was there, and the highlight of it all, I was a +1 and knew only my girlfriend. Apparently, my moves caught the attention of the father of the groom, who came over to tell me I was really feeling the music. The both of us are still debating if this meant I was so terrible I stood out, or looked great. I guess it's up to the imagination. But you know what isn't? You. Right now, two-stepping the like and subscribe button to support the channel. With all that out of the way, let's see what my fever-addled brain came up with for this episode. So, diving right in, and this time, literally, as the whole quest takes place underwater. And, let me tell you, these mechanics are miserable for movement. Somehow, the mobs are all float walking on the platforms as I struggle to move faster than a snail on Xanax smoking a doobie. After what seems like hours, we make our way to the aquarium zoo to take on the first quest, Hugh's new experiment. But instead of Hugh's, we find Muse. And what's Muse's muse? It's Taco Bell. Yeah, I almost pulled a Dr. Seuss on you, but I'm not that good. Why Taco Bell, you might be asking? Well, because of the poison Poopa problem traveling around the beach. And I shit you not, Hughes can create us an antidote for these poison poos. And with that antidote, Muse will have a much better time in the water. Gross. To create the antidote, Hughes needs some items for his studies, so we need to fetch him 100 Poopa eggs and poison Poopa poisonous spikes. At this point in the quest, I literally had no idea what it was talking about, and I did what only the bravest of adventurers would ever do. I Google image searched Poopa. Turns out, I just got a bunch of Peppa Pig memes, which might be worse now that I take a closer look at it. When I get to the Poopas, to my disappointment, it's not Papa Peg, but rather just a pufferfish. So I struggle with the water movement to collect all the ingredients. Then I head over to the second portal on the bottom floor of Orbis Tower to turn in the ingredients to Hughes, who demands we sell him the Poopa parts. We can name any price. Man, the MapleStory market is wonky, I'll tell you what. But all's good as we become a little bit more famous for our Poopa collection efforts. Alright, time for a little reprieve from the naughty jokes. I know what you're really here for. Some wholesome dog content. So, I head over to Nanook on Snowy Whales Island where he tells us about his isolated life raising huskies. This quest doesn't really have a lot of substance to it, so I couldn't help but introduce you to my pupper instead. Meet this little guy. His name's Bandit, known for stealing hearts and taking toys. He's a dino-loving goofball who has an odd quirk of spinning a bunch before fetching his toys at the park. His current record is 15 spins, by the way. And yeah, he would be an expert at Dizzy Bat. But back to the quest. Unlike Bandit, these huskies are chasing tail instead of pizza toys. So, we need to collect 50 seahorse tails to complete the quest. While clearing out mobs during the other quests, you will likely find an SOS letter. This unlocks the bottled up letter quest, which has us go meet Robinson, who can apparently fly high-tech Omega Sector transport equipment, which was attacked by aliens, but can't seem to find his way off of a mobile whale island. Yeah, makes perfect sense. He gives us his ID to seek help, and for some reason, Kenta the zoo trainer will help, but is only interested because they have an agreement with the Omega Sector, which leads to so many questions on why there is any link at all. But maybe that's how they get all these above-sea creatures in their zoo. I feel like the Omega Sector people should, be looking for the pilot though. Maybe they didn't like him very much, I digress. From here, we can start the research collection questline by also talking to Kenta. She tells us about an issue with the local animals and fishes? Fish? I'm pretty sure the plural of fish is also fish, but Google tells me it can be both ways, and this is absolutely earth-shattering to my childhood education. Anyway, this quest is pretty straightforward. You have to clap the cheeks of the local Bikini Bottom population in order to hand in DNA samples to Kenta. The first round of this requires a Sequel, Cisco, and Pinboom's DNA samples. Upon returning with the items, Kenta rewards us and tells us this must have been a chore, but has no problem asking me to do it again in the future. Continuing our conversation immediately after, she pretends to vaguely remember we just talked and asks us to retrieve 3 more samples: the flowerfish, mastfish, and bubblefish. Upon returning, we get this goofy looking fish spear and run through a nearly identical dialogue to the last time. Bit lazy Nexon, but okay. And who could have guessed? This time she needs another 3 samples, but for the Poopa, Sparker, and Freezer. Ah, the ever-abundant Poopa makes its return. I have to call back to the Taco Bell reference earlier in the video and go on a bit of a riff. I feel like my friends would kill me if I didn't tell this story. No, it's not about Poopa, but rather the first time I drank alcohol. Caveat here, use this as a pretty sound learning experience of what not to do. Alright, so for a bit of background, I didn't touch a drop of liquor until I turned 21. I know, a little wild and wacky. I was at the university and a resident assistant in the student dorms on campus. RAs are essentially the glorified hall monitors of college students. 2 of my really good friends were also residents on my floor. These absolute buffoons invited pretty much every 21 plus friend I and they had out to the bars in order to hang out on my birthday. The problem being that every single one bought me a drink. I know nothing about alcohol and my limits at the time, so I just know around drink 2, I started to have quite a bit of fun. You know, I'm not a math whiz, but I put 2 and 2 together pretty quick. More of this tasty juice means more fun. I think we started pretty early at like 9 p.m., but by like 10:30 I was blitzed out of my mind. I had 0 sense of my bodily functions by this point, and my friends decided it was time to get me out of there before I tossed a sidewalk pizza, so to speak. But first, I needed something to soak up the liquor. What better a place than the local Taco Bell to do the job? Now, by this point, I remember very little. Maybe I'll have one of my friends come on at some point to tell their perspective, but let me give you the brown in and out experience that I had. First, my friend is like, eat this burrito, you need it. So I chomped it. Some random amount of time later, I sit bolt upright. Friends are like, are you okay? One shake of my head and that witch's potion of every liquor mixed into some ungodly concoction, and Taco Bell burrito re-entered the world. Born anew. All over the table, on some of my friends, out my memory goes again. Back in it comes to see that a once packed Taco Bell now has very few people in it. One dude passes by and tells me that this is the worst 21st birthday he has ever seen. Out I go again. Back in, and I'm apologizing to the Taco Bell security, who wants nothing more than for me to leave as well. I apologize to the employee, who surprisingly actually praised me. Instead of having to deal with the couple hundred customers, his shift got to ride out smooth after a little bit of cleanup. And hey, who said this story had a bad ending? I was somebody's hero that night. Anyway, next time, back in. I remember my friend caretaking me as I hugged the porcelain throne for the next couple of hours until I finally am in good enough state to sleep through the night. That is the single worst hangover I ever had. Needless to say, I was banned from the Taco Bell, but I'd like to think they're the ones who lost out on a truly valued customer. Alright, that story was a bit of a side quest in and of itself, but hey, if you stayed until the end, you're a true legend. And oh yeah, nearly forgot what the series was all about. We earned the Master of Swimming in the Sea achievement somewhere in there.